All right, so we get down to the business of dissecting Giants fans. Well, listen, the stage is yours until you lose. So don't worry, you're going to get your time. And Giants, it's awesome. They competed. Playoffs are coming. But we start to bury this perennial corpse known as the New York Jets. Now, first of all, do not tell me that this was a good season. This was a complete waste of a season. Oh, but we have a couple of really good players. Good. Every team's got a couple of really good players. I got news for you. The Jets lost 6 straight, 7 of 8, several times, didn't get off the bus with playoff berths on the line. 3 straight games, no touchdowns. Do not tell me this was a good season. And certainly don't tell me this was a fun season. And I got a question for everybody. Because right now, today, first of all, Jets organization, don't even listen to the show. You're not going to want to. You don't want to hear what you're about to hear. So everything must be on the table, and I mean everything. Now, what stinks about that is, does anybody have a modicum of hope that Woody Johnson, 1, knows what he's doing, and or 2, will actually do the right thing? The rhetorical question, obviously, that is, the answer is no. They very well, and when I say everything, they may have whiffed on the general manager. Looks like they whiffed on the quarterback. There's a good chance they whiffed on the head coach, and we know that the OC is going to take the hit for everybody. And as I'm saying that they may have whiffed on the GM, I see my partner, I get it, kind of shaking his head. Well, let me tell you what Joe Douglas has done so far. 7-9, 2-14, 4-13, 7-10. That is a collective 20-46. To be fair, I mean, the cupboards were empty. That's 4 years in the books. And more importantly, in terms of offensive ranks, this is not 1972 where you can win 17-13, and if a kicker kicks a 37-yard field goal, you're like, whoa, what a boot that was. You got to score. And the 4 years with Joe, it's been 26th in total offensive rank, 32nd, and 28th. The offensive line is still a complete mess, partly because you whiffed on Becton. So when I say that everything is on the table, I mean everything. And I've got a question for you, who knows as much football as anybody that I know. I want you, and don't be cute because I'm not, please don't needle me out of the show. You can needle me after. Okay. All right. I know how you are. I get you. This is not pleasurable, but I need a legitimate answer. All right. What are Robert Saleh's best coaching characteristics? Definitively, tangibly identify what he's good at.
Well, it's so interesting that you asked that question, because my response to you, if you hadn't asked me a question, and I'll get to the answer in a second, was for Jet fans to just take a deep breath, breathe in deep, and just relax. Let the emotion go away for a second, and then you can really evaluate this season, because there were some good things, but you can't dwell on them right now because of all the negative. I mean, you lose 6 straight games.
Exactly. Everything's
gross.
on the table. All bets are off. You lost 6 straight.
It's gross.
6.
7-4. It's gross to lose 6 games. So, with that being said, to answer your question, BT, I think that Robert Saleh is a great communicator with us.
Okay.
With us.
This is the first thing you've given me. An interesting answer.
The problem is, I don't know, because I'm not in that locker room, if he's a great communicator with his team. In fact, I probably could speculate that he's not. Now, the other thing that I thought he was going to be great at was the energy, right? This person, I can see him on the sidelines in San Francisco. It's still like jumps in the forefront of my mind when I think about Robert Saleh, is him running up and down the sideline and being who he actually is. And I feel like when he came to New York, he put on a facade to be the head coach of the New York Jets. And as soon as you do that, you take a little bit of yourself away to become a CEO, right? But let's face it, like we're talking about a kid's game. Like we're talking about an entertainment property. We're talking about a sport, something that you have to be real with. Otherwise, you get lost in the nonsense. And I think that Robert Saleh got a little bit lost in the nonsense. What am I doing with my quarterback? We have these issues with the coaching staff. I know that they're there, but I can trust that they're going to go away. We have all this talent, but they're starting to bitch. I'm talking about earlier in the season. We saw this. How do I manage that? Like it gets really complicated to be a head coach. And when you're trying to be the head coach instead of being yourself, you get lost, man.
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest gripe, if I have one, with Robert Saleh is that he wasn't himself. At least it didn't feel like he was himself.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what he does great. I really don't.
Okay, what does he do really well? Forget about great.
I don't know what he does really well.
That's a problem.
And so it's not managing the clock.
Nope.
It's not managing the I don't know, the inevitable changes that are going to happen over the course of a season because he mismanaged the Zach Wilson.
He ruined them.
Benching.
He ruined them.
Throwing them back in to get
He ruined them.
Right? I mean,
ruined them.
Even if he played well enough to win against the Detroit Lions, throwing him back into that situation where he was at home and he was going to get booed, and you're just hoping that he does some good things that boost his confidence. It was bad. It was mismanaged. So it's hard to rhetorically, because I'm not in the clubhouse, I'm not in the locker room over there to tell you what Robert Saleh does well. But I do know that Jet fans, everybody associated with this, needs to take a step back, remove the emotion, and then make practical decisions going forward. Because if you get rash, it's going to get even worse than it already is.
Well, hold on a second. I've had plenty of time to let the emotion leave. I watched yesterday's game like a zombie. I was emotionless.
That was a hard game to watch.
It was brutal. So my head is clear. I have great clarity today. This isn't fueled by emotion. And I don't think that as we get to these calls in a bit, there will be emotion because everybody's unhappy. But I think in large part, whatever's said today is derived from logic. I mean, it's not, put it this way. If yesterday's game meant, hey, if they win, they're in, then I can, and they lost like they did, then I could see you saying, let's step back a little bit here because it's so immediate. The cut, you're still bleeding a bit. You're still kind of putting that napkin, you're dapping up the blood. Yeah. We have been almost desensitized here for a couple of weeks because the season's been over for a couple of weeks. I think anything, I'm just going to speak for myself. This is not emotionally driven. This is not emotionally fueled. I'm going to ask you the question again. Not about Saleh because you gave me the answer, which really is a non-answer, which is the answer. Okay. So the four most important aspects of any organization, forget about ownership because we can't change that. We can scream, sell the team, and I wish he would, but he's not going to. Okay, so we don't need to waste time on that. The other four non-negotiable staples of a team: GM, head coach, OC, quarterback. The GM hasn't won. The head coach looks lost. The offensive coordinator stinks, and the quarterback has been destroyed. So I want to know why everything should not be on the table right now.
Everything should be on the table, except if you're Woody, you are now saying, I'm reconfiguring, I'm resetting again, right? And it gets into this vicious cycle. It's no different than what the Giants went through for, 3 coaching cycles until they found, McAdoo, Shermer, and Judge. Yeah, you went to 3 coaching cycles. It just felt.
And look what happened. They got the right guy, and boom, they're playing an 18th game.
So that's the argument. That's the argument for resetting and putting it all on the table. Because if you know it's wrong, it's wrong, and you should just cut bait. Don't think about it any longer. Let's move on to find someone who's better.
But that's the wrong move. The only reason you move on is because you reel in a big fish. That's the difference. And I've been on the record with that for weeks now.
Yeah, but that's
Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh. I'm not going to fire him for some retread. I'm not saying that at all.
But the Giants didn't do that.
No,
you know what I mean?
But the Giants, it's true. But the Giants went to an organization, that's had a ton of success.
The Dolphins didn't do that.
The Dolphins coach loses yesterday. He's fired. So they didn't make the right move. You disagreed with that last week. I believe strongly, especially if they lost to the Jets, that he would have been fired. But they won, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen, tangible evidence that Dable knew what he was doing, all right? And he can influence the most important part of the game, which is offense. The Jets can't score.
Yeah, but at some point you have to arrest this cycle. You have to stop it. And I know that it's easy to point to Robert Saleh, and I'm sure Robert Saleh is the first one to tell you that he failed this team this year, whether it was because of how he handled, the Elijah Moore nonsense earlier in the season and let Garrett Wilson continually demonstrate against his quarterback, even if it was just natural, visceral emotion that was coming out in the middle of games, whether it was he has the wrong offensive coordinator because Mike LaFleur just wasn't prepared to develop Zach Wilson. I'm sure he would tell you he failed, but rethinking him as your head coach keeps this cycle of just turnover over and
I
over.
Understand. That's why I say you only go for like a Peyton or Harbaugh. Okay, but if the Giants didn't do that, the Giants would be picking third this year.
But how are you getting a commitment from Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh or any of these guys?
You start with a phone call. I don't even know that he'll say yes. Did Woody even go through a back channel to gauge his interest?
That's a big if.
My guess is no, and that's pathetic. That's what's so frustrating. Listen. I understand that the future with the Jets is a lot brighter. Like when Gase was fired, when Idzik was gone, and showing that, those were just dark, the rudderless, just beyond, almost we were apathetic. This is not that. But it doesn't mean that you have the right situation in place. And I think everything's got to be looked at. I think everything's got to be critically analyzed. And I got to laugh. There's some Jet fans who are actually saying it's a good season. Are you that desensitized? Has this team taken away your competitive spirit that much that you're okay with losing 7 straight games? That's okay. I don't understand some people. Not okay with me.